Well, hey guys, this is DK Spencer, and this is the Beeman Protect BP50. So this is a 50 caliber less lethal launcher. It shoots ball ammo, so you can shoot pepper balls or chemical ammo through it. You can shoot rubber balls, rubber steel balls, metal composite balls, whatever. It's powered by 12 grams CO2. You smack the bottom right there to activate it. It has a removable 8-round magazine. You can actually put a +1 load in it, so drop one in before you put the magazine in, and it actually has a total capacity of 9, so definitely good. To kind of put this thing into perspective power wise, the best I've ever got with it was 23.51 joules, and that was with the AR Tactical 50 cal 4 gram Joule rounds. I also did a video where I tested this one heads up against a Byrna CL. I was actually using different ammo in that test. Didn't get as good with this one, but under the exact same testing conditions, the CL hit 11 joules. This one hit 21 with that ammo. So 23 with the AR Tactical ammo, 21 with the other ammo. And I tested a couple of different kinds that night in that video. So definitely the AR Tactical is the best ammo for this, at least with the factory barrel. Now this one is completely unmodified, and I do want to say something about it. I'm not trying to just continually knock the Byrna CL and stuff, but I paid $119 for this. I think they've went up now to like $139, but still, you know, we're not even at $150 for one of these things, and literally double the power of a Byrna CL and more capacity. So you get more shots and considerably more power for a fraction of the price. And it's a really solid, nice looking launcher. It doesn't have the pull to pierce like the CL, but hey, it's not hard to smack that thing either. Smack it on your leg as you're pulling it out, smack it with your offhand when you're going into your grip position, whatever. Very, very easy to do. So I'm definitely liking this a whole lot better than a Byrna CL. And even compared to an SD, this is actually smaller than an SD. The CL is a little bit smaller than this. The Byrna SD is not smaller than this. Still double the power, more capacity. I mean, you just, you know, you can't go wrong with it. So what we're going to do today, my good buddy Greg at East Coast Less Lethal sent me a barrel that he modified. So just to let you guys know ahead of time, I am going to put links. But this barrel is a barrel from Home Defense 24 for an HDP 50, and Greg lathed that little groove in it to fit inside this thing. Greg also makes his own barrels for these that are the same specs as these, same length, same internal diameter, all that stuff. He says the performance is exactly the same. They just won't be black and they won't have the threaded tip. So this one has a threaded tip you can put an extension on. He said he does plan to have more of these. I think he's only got one left right now maybe, but he does plan to have more of these, but he does have his own version that is available at East Coast Less Lethal. So, all that being said, I'm going to eat a sandwich. Let's take this guy apart and see what's up. See if we can get even more power out of it. Before we get started, I do want to tell you guys to make sure and stay tuned. You guys have seen me do a few videos with the 6 needler. So Greg also sent me, these are going to be available at East Coast Less Lethal, the updated versions of the cones to put on the bigger cold steel blowgun darts. So I did a test with the ones that didn't even fit right, so we were not running at full power because they were too small. And these things, even with that big of a barb on the end of it, I guess not barb, broadhead, whatever you want to call it, was still penetrating through a 1-inch piece of pine board. With the ones that actually fit perfectly and get a good seal, I expect it to be, you know, even better. So we're going to be doing some testing with that, so stay tuned. You will have to buy your own blowgun darts. What he's going to be selling are the 2 green pieces you see to convert it. So stay tuned for that. This thing is freaking awesome. I've got several videos on that. If you haven't seen them, make sure to check that out. All right, so I went ahead and removed several of the screws just to make this video go quicker. So first of all, make sure that you remove your CO2, and we're going to remove the magazine, but we'll get back to that. That magazine is going to be important in the reassembly. So you're just going to use a small Phillips head screwdriver to remove all these. Now the one back here at the back is actually a pH0. That one is a little trickier than the rest of them, so be careful with that one. I left it kind of semi-in. And I'm just going to tell y'all, full disclosure, I took this thing apart and the video got so messy that I was like, okay, I don't even want to watch this. I know nobody else does, so I kind of started over after I learned the internals of it. So, yeah, you're welcome. Trust me, you're welcome. It was bad. I'm usually very fluid with this stuff, especially FSCs, VKSs, and stuff like that. I had never had this one apart, and it kind of blew up on me a little bit before I got it apart. Before I got it apart enough to see it, and I think that's loose. Yeah, it is. Okay, I haven't got that one yet. It would have been funny for people that, you know, thought it was funny, but for some people it would have been very frustrating. All right, so one important thing you got to do with this is you've got to remove your sights before you can take it apart. So I probably should have done that before I unscrewed everything. But probably the best way to do that is to take you a punch. Sorry about hitting the camera. Whoop. All right, so we're going to take a punch. Okay. All right, so pop those guys out. Once those guys are popped out, then we're going to take this guy apart. Everything's going to fall apart. Don't worry about that. There's a couple little key parts that I want to show you to make sure you don't lose. All right, so first of all, you got this bar, set that aside. You've got your trigger, set that aside. On your trigger, when it all flies apart, there's going to be a spring. That guy, make sure you've got that. This is probably one of the trickiest little parts here, but this is your magazine release. There is a little spring inside that goes in that hole right there. All right, so make sure that you've got that. Okay, we'll set that down there. And I think that's about all that matters. There is a little detent ball here that will fall out if you turn it up. It's just a little ball bearing. And there's a spring, see the spring right there that pushes against it, so don't lose that either. And that's basically the gist of the parts that you have to worry about. Okay, this thing is very, very similar, the way it's built right here, to an X68. So anyway, so the plastic barrel is plastic. I mean, the factory barrel is plastic. It's been a long day, y'all. So anyway, there it is. So we're just going to pop it out, okay? As you can see, it's got a groove cut around it. Now that groove fits in this little area right here. Now, if you wanted to use one without a groove, like if you didn't buy one from Greg, and you could hone that out, but you're much better off doing it this way, getting one from Greg that's, you know, going to hold it, because that's going to help stabilize it and hold it in place. So, and I'm very confident that the ones he makes are going to be just as fantastic as these if he says they are. Greg is a really, really good guy. He's one of the only people in Less Lethal, maybe the only person in all this stuff that's actually been to my house and hung out with me in, you know, real life and stuff. So Greg's a great, great guy. So here we got the barrel. I am going to clean that out a little bit real quick. Yeah, it needed it. Oh, that looks much, much better. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Alright, so it's got this little like washer piece right here. You're going to leave that on. I am going to take this off to get it out of the way. That's your thread protector. So we're just going to, and if you need to pick that up a little bit, it's not a big deal. Just get that down in there and push her back in. Now see, there come that detent. So your installation is going to be identical if you get one of the East Coast Less Lethal barrels or one that East Coast Less Lethal has modified from an HDP barrel. So anyway, there's all that. Now we're going to take our magazine release and we're going to put it back in right here. Now here's a little trick that Greg told me, and I'm so glad he did, because this makes life so much easier. Insert your magazine. Now you see that little divot right there on the mag? Go ahead and insert your magazine all the way in, and see that fits on that little divot. So that's what actually holds your magazine in. All right, now what it's doing when we're putting this in like this is keeping that in the right position so that it lines up when we put everything back together, okay? So then we are going to take this guy here. This is your trigger, and you've got this little spring that inevitably will fall off, right? So what you want to do is just put it back in the, okay, so let me see if I can show you here. We're going to put it in that position right there. So the long part's going to be sticking down right in front of the trigger, okay? So very simple to do. Okay, so there you go. See what I did there? Nothing to it. Now, on this side of your clamshell, you've got this little pin. Pull that pin out. Stick it in its corresponding hole on this side of the clamshell. Okay? Now, that is going to go through this hole right here. So you're going to go ahead and do that. Now, what you're going to find is, see that little spring sticking out right there? What we've got to do, and I'll use some tweezers. It's not hard to do. You could do it with whatever, but you're going to pick your trigger up a little bit on this post. Pick it up a little bit to where you can take something and push. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Let me see. Let me move it over right there. All right, so you're going to just push that. That's not going to work. So you're just going to push that spring onto the back side. Whoops. I think I popped it out. Nope, I didn't. All right, whoops. So it's wanting to kind of flick out of there, but why is it wanting to flick out of there? It's in the right place. Anyway, it won't matter in a minute. All right, so you're getting that spring onto the back side back here. So that's what's making your trigger spring back forward, okay? So there you go. Now, there it finally stuck. All right, so now you've got another little spring right here. See that guy? So that guy is going to need to be pulled down out of the way. You can just do it with your finger. It's not hard. And you're going to stick the hole on there just like that. Fits right on the trigger there and goes in that position there, and let that spring go to where it's pushing up on this bar, and I'll give you guys a better look at that. Okay, so you can see that spring is right there pushing up on this bar. That is notched about perfectly for that, so you kind of have to have it in this position to put it down onto that post. Not a big deal, you'll figure it out, you'll see. But you can't put it on and then rotate it around. You kind of got to put it on when it's, you know, vertical like that, or yeah, horizontal. That's what I meant to say. All right, so you see it's catching on that. Now what you can do is you can push down on this to make sure it doesn't move, and you can pull your trigger and you can see. Now that will pop out because your clamshell is going to hold it against it, but you can see what's going on there, right? Okay. All right, and that's just holding it up against that, okay? So make sure when you get ready to put everything back together that that's on the bottom side of that right there, okay? If you test it, make sure to put it back if it flicks off. Okay. Now. Okay, now make sure your magazine release is where it's supposed to be. All right, make sure your detent's still in there. Make sure your spring's still in your magazine release. I can see my little spring is back here on the top part of that where it's supposed to be for your trigger. And that little spring's in the right place there. Once all that stuff's in order, then you're going to put this back together. Now the trick is you're going to watch through this hole here and make sure that that magazine release goes through this hole. That's the main thing that you're watching and listening to make sure you don't hear any springs come loose or anything. Okay, so that's a little bit off. Make sure your magazine's all the way up in there. Okay, just like that. Just give it a little tap. All right, so squeeze it together really, really tight and make sure you can push that and release your mag, which you can. I'm not letting it with my other hand, but it's pushing like it's supposed to. It's coming out of the hole. Hold that puppy really, really tight together. And I suggest getting your screw right there. I got flustered too when I started doing this because I could not find my good Cobalt cordless driver. I finally found it now that I've already started doing the video and stuff with this one, but I was like, I love that thing, and I was tearing everything apart trying to find it. Thought my daughter had lost it, and which, you know, she loves. I'm lucky. She is just like me, really. She doesn't like Barbie dolls, and she does like tools, just like her dad. Okay, so you want to make sure you're not stripping anything. Again, this little guy back here is a wee bit tricky because that hole's really small, so don't go too far with that one. All right, I'm gonna put the rest of these in and I'll be right back. Now, I think I would suggest to anybody that's not very used to doing this stuff to do it manually, because these are something that can, you know, you can round them off pretty doggone easy. So maybe if you use a cordless one, you know, run them close to the end, but use something handheld to manually snug them. That don't fit. You know, when you get to the end, so you don't risk, you know, stripping them out or rounding them off, either one. All right, so once all that's back together, you're just going to put your sights back in. So we got a ramp front sight, so the ramp goes, you know, like you're going to jump it. All right. And I'm using a plastic, nylon, whatever you want to call it, punch to not mar anything up. Come on, guy. Did I get lucky? Wow, I did. I got very lucky. It's as dead centered as you can get. Look at the line on that. Let's see here. There you go, look at that. All right, so back sight, and from what I can tell, The back sight is, I don't know that it matters either way. It looks about the same either way. Wow, it just slides back in for the most part. Okay, got that. All right. So now I was going to say this. After you put a couple of screws in, maybe 3, you do definitely, you know, pull your trigger, make sure everything seems like it's supposed to be working. Check your mag release, make sure all that's working before you go to the trouble of putting it completely back together. Make sure you've got enough in there to where it's holding though, because you don't want to screw something up messing around with it, or hold it real tight and check it. But anyway, so there you go. All right, let's see what kind of numbers we can get. Now, first of all, let's make sure this ammo is still good. Yep, perfect. Because obviously we're going to use that ammo since that's what we got the best with. All right, I'll meet you guys at the range. If anybody's curious, yes, a full-size EOTech 512 will fit on this thing. So there it is with the Balder EOTech. Not that you would really do that, but yeah, that's quite a lot of rail space up there. So anyway, yeah, extension, all that. Good times. All right, let's try it with something else. Or let's just go like this. Let's go with this. All right, let's see what kind of numbers we can get. All right, now for real, let's go to the range. Now, I was about to forget about the comp. Now, the comp is actually the way this is made. I probably should have showed you in there, but the way this is made, your threads will actually go into the comp like that, all right? And then it necks down to the size of the barrel. You can see it's smaller on that side than it is on that side. So you're actually, what that's doing is extending the aftermarket barrel a little bit. Now, I'm not sure if he makes one to use just with the factory barrel or not, but the factory barrel's flush, so, you know, whatever. If he does, I will link that as well. But so that's how that works. That's pretty neat. I was thinking it was, oh gosh, I was thinking it was to go with this, and I got to looking at it like, well, that's not long enough to cover that, and the hole's too small. And so anyway, so I see what's going on there. Well, yep. We're going to test the strongest part first, just cause I know y'all have been patiently watching this. We're going to get the best numbers, obviously, with the extension, so let's do that. Hopefully you guys will stick around for the rest of the video. But I'm impatient, so I know you are. All right, let me put some CO Tizzle in here. Just remember, at least you guys didn't have to watch as much of this video as I did. All right, so these are 3.84. I'm going to verify that real quick. All right, so yeah, 3.84. For any of you Byrna people out there, just remember the Byrna ammo is like 2.1 grams. So even this is going to be traveling faster than the CL anyway, but even if it didn't, that's because it's pushing a whole lot heavier ball. 3.84 grams versus 2.1 grams. So anyway, that's a good sign. It's always a good sign when you've had one apart, when you activate it and it don't go. All right, here we go, son. Holy Hannah. Yeah, get focused. I want some focus. Serious? 428 sun. Yeah. Now unfocus. Come on, guy. That is 32.5 joules. Stupid focus. 32.5 joules. Yeah, so if it was a half of a joule more, it would be, hey, I left my O-light off. If it was half of a joule more, it would be literally triple the power of my CL at this point. Obviously, it's longer and stuff now, but whatever. You get my point. Oh, ho, ho. Okay. Dang, son. Taking pictures of that. That's why I'm taking so long. That, my friends, is 36.9 joules. Basically 37. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's going to get somebody's attention, by golly. That's, yeah. That's pretty freaking cool. If I was a betting man, I'd say that was probably our strongest shot, but I lied. What? Now, if you haven't listened to anything else I've said so far, listen to this. To put that in perspective, if we were shooting a 2.1 gram ball like the Byrna CL shoots, that would be 620 feet per second. 620 feet per second. If you're trying to compare apples and apples or whatever, as far as weight goes. This is much heavier than that, but if it were the same weight, 620 feet per second at this power. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Oh, this makes me happy. Even more, son. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Sorry, I hit pause instead of click. There we go. Seriously, son. 38.2 joules. 38.2. Really. Wow. Oh, man. That's awesome. Somebody asked me if we could hit 40 with this thing. Pretty dadgum close, son. Pretty dadgum close. All right. Now, good. We're on the downside. I can't handle much more excitement. So 452. 452. All right, so that is 36.25. Okay, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only put 8 in it. 446. Why will you not focus? Stupid. All right, that is 35.3. 436. Yeah. All right. 33.73. And 426. All right. So there is a good shot of it with the East Coast Less Lethal comp. So this has got the performance barrel with obviously no extension on it, and the comp, which acts as a small extension. So let's see what this will do. I think I forgot to tell you guys the last shot. So 32.2 was the last one. So there's the breakdown. Started at 32.5, got all the way up to 38.2, and then ended at 32.2. So yeah, good times. All right, here we go. Gosh, I love this thing. I really do. It's just sweet. I mean, I don't know, something about it I really like. Ballistic Joel even loves this. I mean, that's, you know, he's not even a less lethal guy. He's like, man, I gotta have one of those. All right, 400. So that is 28.39. For those of you guys that like to see. All right, 414. All right, we got 30.41. 416. 30.71. So our next shot should be our strongest, hopefully. It was the last time anyway. Fourth shot was the money shot. We'll see. We'll see. No, dropping. Of course, it's already been shot once today, so it's going to cool a little quicker. I tried to give it, you know, ample time, but 406. So that was 29. There you go, 29.25. All right, back up to 414, which that's nice because we know it's 30.41. I'll show it. Some people that watch me don't speak English, and I don't think that YouTube can translate hick to whatever language. All right. He der der birdie der der birder. 402. All right, 28.67. .402 again. Y'all need to see that. There it is. And last and probably least. Yep, 388. Yay, it focused for a second. That counted. All right, we got 26.71 on the last shot. Again, I just put 8 in there because, you know, why not? All right, guys, make sure to like, subscribe. We're going to test it with no extensions and no comp. Yeah, just wanted to remind you. All right, so now we're going to try it in the shortest formation. So this is the performance barrel with just the thread protector on it, obviously. All right. Oh. All right, 388. All right, 26. Come on, guy. 26.71. Very, very nice. So let's see here. Good Lord. That's crazy. 394. All right, so 27.54. Stupid focus. So 396. 27.83. Now, full disclosure, it did have a little more time to warm up between the comp test and this test than it did between the extension test and the comp test. I had some unexpected company show up at the house, so anytime that you shoot one of these, it's always going to be the strongest the very first time of the day you shoot it, unless you let it set hours. Because CO2 is very temperature dependent, and when you shoot one of these, it cools on the inside. I try to let it sit a good while and warm back up to room temperature, but you're always going to notice a little bit of a difference. So 400, wow, that's crazy. All right, so 28.39, that's probably going to be our strongest one. So it looks like with the comp, we gained about 3 joules with the comp, at least. Because like I say, warmed up a little bit more between those tests than the first two. So. All right, now we're down to 392. So, yep. That was a pretty good drop there compared to what it was doing. So that was 27.27. $388. So 26.71. Ah, that one didn't read. Dang it. Things getting, I've had a couple of misreadings. All right, 364. All right, that's going to be all she wrote. Let's see. All right, so last one was 23.51. So if you look at these numbers here, that's with Greg's comp, and this is without. So definitely does better with the comp. Makes, you know, definitely makes a difference. So I'll let that soak in a minute. And then obviously with the extension, I mean, dude, that's crazy. I can't believe that little guy, 38.2. That's enough to absolutely get somebody's attention right there. So, I love this thing. I do. I love this. I like this the best of anything I've had in a long time. I know it's new, and obviously you like new stuff better. But it's just like Joel said, there's just something about the way it's made. It's just solid. It's cute. I don't know. I like it. And it works great. So, anyway, good times. All right, so I got a couple little side notes here. So first of all, when I did my initial testing video with this guy with the factory barrel. Now here's the factory barrel that we took out earlier in the video. When I did that video, initially, we tested 3 kinds of ammo. We tested the 3.5 gram riot balls, we tested the AR Tactical Joules, and we tested the rubber steel balls. Now, I have said over and over and over again in videos, especially FSC and VKS videos, to always check the size of your ammo before you shoot it through something. Now, I did check the rubber steel balls to make sure, which one's that? Whoa, there you go. No, both of those are here. There's one. To make sure what size they were, and I realized they were too big for that barrel, but we shot them anyway because they were soft, and we just wanted to see what would happen. Now, the AR Tactical rounds I did not check. However, I saw Sean's video from Less Lethal for Dummies where he did, and lo and behold, they're too big for that barrel. Even though I got the best numbers with that ammo of anything. So the 3.5 gram, and this is with the factory barrel, the 3.5 gram riot balls, they fall right through it. And if you look down in there, you see that they're a very, very poor bore match. I mean, there's all kinds of room around that thing, right? So those gave us a best number of 21.66. The rubber steel balls that won't fit down it, all right, those give us a best number of 21.23. The AR Tactical balls that also won't fit down it gave us the best number of 23.51 with the factory barrel. So the ones that didn't even fit down the barrel did better than the very poorly bore matched 3.5 gram ones. So there's not much difference in weight there, but there's a big difference in bore matching there. So I probably wouldn't have tested these hard ones in that barrel if I would have realized how much bigger than the barrel they were. So it was just kind of lucky that that fit. Now, when you get over to the barrel we put in today, we obviously had much better performance because it's a much better bore match for these because it's not too big for them. So we went from 23.51 up to 28.39, so substantial increase. All right, good times. And you should expect that same increase with one of the East Coast Less Lethal manufactured barrels, or if he gets more of the ones like that I tested, obviously, that are made by Home Defense 24 and modified to fit by Greg at East Coast Less Lethal. Now, the other tidbit I wanted to point out, I'm going to put a link to their comp. Now, the comp says in the description that it's for the factory barrel. But I talked to Greg earlier tonight, and Greg said that they can actually make the comp to fit the Home Defense 24 modified barrel, the East Coast Less Lethal manufactured barrel, or the factory barrel. So you got 3 different choices. So make sure if you do order the comp and you're doing that, make sure you let Greg know if you're using it with the factory barrel, the Home Defense 24 modified barrel, or the East Coast Less Lethal manufactured barrel. That's it. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with me this long. And if I don't talk to you before then, happy Thanksgiving. Bye.